Bernie Sanders went back on The View to be assaulted with some painfully stupid questions, but he was surprisingly asked a very relevant and good question by Meghan McCain, so I'll give her a little bit of credit for that. Meghan McCain asked Bernie whether or not he's going to stick up for Tulsi Gabbard and call out the unfair treatment that she's getting from the DNC. For those of you who aren't familiar with the backstory and details, so Tulsi Gabbard is now being cheated out of the third debate that's coming up in a few days. And the excuse that the DNC is using for keeping her off of the debate stage is that she hasn't met the polling requirement. In order to make the debate stage, you have to poll 2% in 4 or 5 polls from the list of 17 DNC-approved polling organizations. The problem is Tulsi Gabbard is polling at 2% in 29 credible scientific polls. Some of those polling organizations are actually rated higher than the polls that the DNC is accepting, but still, for some reason, the DNC won't accept any of those 29 polls that have Tulsi Gabbard polling at 2% and higher, meeting the threshold to get into the third debate. I don't believe this is simply some oversight at the DNC. I don't think it was mismanagement. I don't think it was from a lack of planning. The most obvious explanation to me and people who are objectively looking at the situation is that the DNC does not want Tulsi Gabbard on that stage. So they're bending over backwards and relying on bullshit technicalities to justify keeping her off the stage. It is only the most logical question ever to ask Bernie Sanders if he's going to come out and stand up for a candidate who's being cheated by the DNC, because he himself was cheated by the DNC the very last time there was a presidential primary. And I have to say, his answer to being asked that question was lackluster and disappointing. He basically dodges the question and goes into a side rant about how he doesn't like how the debates are formatted, meaning the amount of people who are on stage and the questions they ask and the amount of time devoted to each specific issue. He just went on his own side rant about the formats of debate in general, but he would not make the case for Tulsi Gabbard. He would not explicitly call out the DNC for their bullshit and their underhanded cheating tricks. And I have a problem with that. And I've seen some Bernie Sanders supporters come out and basically defend him on this or say it's not a big deal. And obviously I'm not saying this is a campaign ender for Bernie Sanders, but it is kind of disappointing. Some people say, no, he's running his own campaign. He needs to worry about his own campaign. He doesn't have to stick up for other candidates and all these other rationalizations. And I don't think any of them are convincing, because the truth of the matter is Bernie Sanders has built this reputation and started this movement, this political revolution, on the idea that he is this radical truth teller and someone who's willing to call out the powerful interest in the establishment, whether it's the donors, corporations, billionaires, corrupt politicians, the Republican Party, or the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders has built his reputation as someone who's willing to call them out wherever and whenever it's necessary. So to watch him dodge a direct question asking him to call out underhanded cheating tricks of the DNC trying to cheat progressives for the 3 millionth time in a row, to watch Bernie Sanders just sit there and dodge that and act like it isn't a real issue that's happening right now, that shit made me kind of cringe. That shit made me cringe. Because understand something. Say he didn't even know Tulsi Gabbard. Say that they were just strangers on the street. They had no history, no past, nothing like that. And Tulsi Gabbard is just a progressive candidate running on Medicare for all, running on ending the wars, running on getting money out of politics, running on Bernie Sanders' progressive platform. And the DNC sees that and says, we don't like progressives in general. We don't like those policies. We don't like you talking about we need a seat change in the Democratic Party and we need to run out the establishment. We don't like people talking about that. So we're going to cheat you and make sure that you don't make it to the debate stage to make sure that you can't make that case to the American people. If Bernie Sanders was just seeing that happen to any old random progressive running in a primary in the Democratic Party, I would still want him and expect him to come out and say, whoa, that is dirty. And as someone who's been the victim of these dirty cheats and liars and smear merchants, let me tell you, I'm not going to sit here and watch them do it to somebody else. That's what I would expect and hope Bernie Sanders would do if it was just any other person, any other progressive being cheated by the DNC. But the fact that this is Tulsi Gabbard makes it 10 times worse, because when Bernie Sanders was being cheated in real time, there was nobody who stuck their neck out for him more than Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard stepped down from the vice chair position at the DNC because she saw what Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the establishment in the Democratic Party was doing. She saw that they were working behind the scenes and pulling strings to rig the primary in favor of Hillary Clinton. And she says, I want no part in this dirty cheating bullshit, and I'm going to campaign with Bernie Sanders because his message is the message of the American people, of the working class, and that's the progressive policy platform that I subscribe to. So I'm going to step down from the DNC. I'm going to burn bridges with the Democratic Party. I'm going to put my career on the line to campaign for Bernie Sanders. She did that in 2016. And now that the DNC, the same organization, is pulling underhanded, dirty tricks to keep Tulsi Gabbard, to black Tulsi Gabbard out of the discussion, to shut down her campaign, to shut her out of the primary, Bernie Sanders doesn't have a goddamn word to say about it. And if you still don't see a problem with that, I want, and you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, look at how progressives and Bernie Sanders supporters look at Elizabeth Warren and how she acted in the 2016 primary. Bernie Sanders was being cheated for the world to see. Everybody saw it. We all saw it. Elizabeth Warren, sitting in Washington, D.C. as a United States senator, the second most progressive senator in the country, second only to Bernie Sanders. She claims to be his ideological double, the Robin to his Batman. And he's being cheated in the open by the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, and the mainstream media is in on it too. Elizabeth Warren didn't say a goddamn word about it. And because she didn't do that, because she didn't speak up a bit about the cheating, because she didn't endorse Bernie Sanders while it was happening, progressives have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to Elizabeth Warren. Now, it seems the tables have turned, and the DNC, yes, at the same time, they're cheating Bernie Sanders. Don't get that twisted. They are cheating Bernie Sanders right now, and I'm going to get back to that later. But they're cheating Bernie Sanders, and they're cheating a progressive, Tulsi Gabbard, who came out and put her career on the line for you, Bernie Sanders. And Bernie's going to sit there and act like nothing's happening. Just like Elizabeth Warren acted like nothing was happening when he was being cheated in 2016. And it's just so baffling because I don't know why Bernie won't just do it. I don't know what he thinks he has to lose by coming out and defending Tulsi Gabbard. More importantly, coming out and calling out the DNC's cheating, lying bullshit that they continue to do against progressives unabated. All these people already don't like you. You coming out and saying the DNC is cheating Tulsi Gabbard, what do you think is going to happen? You think the mainstream media, they're going to attack you? You think they're going to smear you? You think they're going to say things that aren't true about you? Well, I hate to tell you, they've been doing that, and they haven't stopped doing that. They haven't eased up. They haven't taken the brakes off of 2016. They have not shifted gear. They're doing the same exact thing. Washington Post smearing you relentlessly with bullshit made up attacks. You had them the other day trying to fact check Bernie Sanders saying, oh no, 500,000 people. Bernie Sanders is lying when he says 500,000 people go bankrupt every year in the United States because of medical bills, even though they cited the same exact number from the same exact study as Bernie Sanders a couple months earlier. So they are already doing hacky, baseless smears of Bernie Sanders just because they don't like him ideologically. So why do you think you telling the truth about the DNC is going to what? about to flip the script and support Bernie Sanders, but then, goddamn it, he came out and said the DNC is cheating Tulsi Gabbard, so the Washington Post just went right back to writing negative articles about Bernie Sanders. They're going to smear you relentlessly. They're going to do it on CNN. They're going to do it on MSNBC. They're going to do it on ABC. They're going to do it in the Washington Post and New York Times. They're going to do it all over the place because you are a threat to the establishment already. Your policies, your platform, the things you are saying, the political revolution that you're trying to start, that you're trying to manifest, that is all a threat to the establishment, and they're going to smear you relentlessly no matter what. So you coming out and making the defense of Tulsi Gabbard isn't going to make them hate you anymore. And what are you gonna? You're afraid that what, the DNC? You're gonna call out the DNC's cheating, and then what? Then now they're gonna start cheating you, Bernie. They already cheating you. They're still been cheating you. They haven't stopped cheating you from 2016. So again, what do you have to lose by calling them out for cheating Tulsi Gabbard, another progressive? What do you have to lose? Not even from the standpoint of trying to appeal to voters in the Democratic Party. That Bernie Sanders being silent makes sense. That doesn't even make sense in that scenario, because it's not like the voters have this high opinion of the Democratic Party. They consistently rank incredibly low when you poll people and you ask them what their opinion is of the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton still polls below Donald Trump. 3 years into his presidency, Hillary Clinton still polls below him. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the Democratic Party in general, I believe they still poll below Donald Trump in favorability numbers. Donald Trump's at like low 40s. Democrats are like low 30s, mid 30s. They are unliked. People see the shit that they do. People see that they're corrupt. People see that they cheat progressives in the open, broad daylight, brazenly, unrepentant. So if Bernie Sanders calls it out, it's not like voters are going to be like, oh, Bernie Sanders, he's... Were you afraid of the he's not a Democrat smear? Because I'm telling you, that's already out there. That's already floating around, and they're going to keep using it no matter what. So just call out the Democratic Party. I don't get it. I don't get it. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. And in fact, it's only going to help you if you call out the Democratic Party, because one, like I already said, people hate the Democratic Party. So to hear you, someone who's arguably the front runner in the primary, bashing the Democratic Party, you're only going to excite voters more. But beyond that, when it gets later in the primary and the DNC keeps going, they keep upping the ante and they keep cheating Bernie Sanders in worse and worse ways, it's going to get to a point where if he doesn't call it out, they might actually be able to just flat out steal the nomination from him. And if that point comes and then Bernie Sanders, I don't know exactly what it would be. I don't know if it's kicking people off the voting rolls. I don't know if it's denying his campaign voter registration data. I don't know if it would be just flat out changing vote totals in certain primary states. Whatever it is, when Bernie Sanders calls it out, he's going to have more of a leg to stand on if he's not only doing it when the DNC cheats him. If he can, at that point, whatever point it is in the primary, he can say, and it's not just me. You did the same thing to Tulsi Gabbard. You cheated Tulsi Gabbard out of the primary. You cheated her out of the debates and did a body blow to her campaign and ended her campaign. Bernie Sanders could turn around and say that to the DNC, and his case would be even stronger, because not only did they cheat him, they're cheating progressives throughout the country. They cheated progressives in this very same primary, and then they're going to end up trying to cheat Bernie Sanders out of the nomination. So you are just going to make your case stronger by calling out the bullshit from right now. All I'm saying is this is not a good look for Bernie Sanders. It makes him look disloyal because Tulsi Gabbard stuck her neck out for him more than anyone else. I literally cannot think of anyone else who put their career on the line more for Bernie Sanders than Tulsi Gabbard. And now that she needs him to do the same, turn around and do the same, call out the DNC cheating, call them out, call out the corruption, call out the fucking liars and the cheats of the DNC. When she needs him to turn around and do the same, he's hanging her out to dry. And that is what it is. I'm obviously still a Bernie Sanders supporter. I hope he wins the nomination. I hope he's president come 2021. That being said, this is still fucked up. And any Bernie Sanders supporter who's trying to justify this or excuse this, you're just not being objective. Because if you're being objective, you could say without a doubt, Bernie Sanders is wrong for letting the DNC cheat Tulsi Gabbard the way that they are. And one more point I want to make about Tulsi Gabbard is, god damn, no good deed goes unpunished. I've said it over and over again on the show. I don't even know how many times. Tulsi Gabbard put her neck out there on the line for Bernie Sanders. She put it all on the line for Bernie Sanders. When the DNC was cheating him, she gave up her job and said, look, man, this shit is wrong. I want no part in this. I'm going to campaign for Bernie Sanders because that man is talking about real shit. He's talking about ending corruption. He's talking about $15 minimum wage. He's talking about Medicare for all. That's my guy. 3 years later, 4 years later, however you want to look at it, she's now being cheated by the DNC, Bernie Sanders hanging her out to dry. The whole time she's running in the primary, some of the largest progressive independent media outlets who claim to be the biggest Bernie Sanders supporters out there, and I'm not going to question how loyal they are to Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders supporters go out and black out and smear the person who put their career on the line, risked the most for Bernie Sanders in 2016 to call out the DNC bullshit. They turn around and black her out and smear her relentlessly. So, goddamn, Tulsi Gabbard probably looking around like, where my friends at? Where are my friends at? Because the way it looked, her friends done switched up on her.